formed in a dream, kept in a thought, carried across oceans, spoken in whispers, passed down from elders, planted in gardens of okra, prayed for in sanctuary, resisted with fury, protected with faith, created with love, born into being, from root to bone. You are here.
This podcast talks about colonial, racial, and gender-based violence. Please listen at your own pace and capacity. And remember to do what you need to do to care for yourself if you feel activated by this content. Should you need resources, please check out our section on resources at decolonizingtherapy.com. Be well. Welcome, my good people. I am Dr. Jennifer Mullen, and it is my absolute pleasure to introduce the Marrow of Ancestral and Celestial Intelligence. Today, I have literally two of my favorite people, I'm going to say in this universe. Forget the world. This world is too small for the amount of love that I have for these two beings. And as we come in, as we start to land, as I begin to introduce them, what I'm going to invite of you is to root into yourself, whether it's like placing your feet on the floor, really like recentering your seat, getting in touch with and noticing what starts to come up as these fabulous celestial ancestral powerhouses start to talk and share. I deeply invite you to take this as a form of download, of healing, of receiving, as Natoya Hall and Jenn Maramba really grace us, bless us, up-level us into some understanding of what many of us may be feeling and not quite be able to put into words, as well as the work that they have been doing for such a long time, and the ways that this really intersects with the kind of collective healing that we may need as a people today. And as I said, I'm Dr. Jenn. I am the founder of Decolonizing Therapy and the host of this podcast, From Root to Bone. From Root to Bone is a podcast for folks like yourself that are parched, poised, and primed to rehydrate our souls and do some mother tucking unlearning, okay? It's a place where I unlock the gates and I have real ass conversations with elders, teachers, my intellectual crushes, and folks doing the real ass work towards reclaiming the juiciest parts of our history, of our ancestry, of our collective health, and of our liberation. Welcome and land. Jenn and Natoya, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. So I'm going to start everybody off. As y'all know, I do the chatty Chatterton thing for a couple of minutes as I read some of our guest work. This is the first time that we have a duo, and I thought that this was perfect because I met Toya on these Instagram streets. And Toya was one of the first people that I knew that was doing this beautiful kind of mix of blogging, creating, channeling, I'm going to say reintroducing the world to a language that is likely very innate to who many of us are, I would dare say. But in a bit, we're going to get into that, and I will let Toya give you her version of the definition of light language so that we can really understand it and break it down. And so I met Jenn through Toya. Toya brought together a number of badass individuals, some of which have come to be siblings, spiritual siblings to me. So thank you, Toya, for that knowingness in our Warriors of Light group. And I've been working with Jenn and Toya ever since. They have become soul siblings to me ever since. And I believe that they're two of the realest and baddest around, baddest in a good way, thank you. In terms of truly this like ancestral celestial decolonial liberatory work. And I do believe that they're like one and the same in many ways. And I don't think that in some ways, because I often think that decolonization is often seen as just this very intellectualized piece that is very physical and is about land. And as many of us know in decolonizing therapy, I do my best to talk about decolonization where we're also honoring spirit and ancestry as well as land. It is always about land and us being part of nature and land, as well as the political and what that means for bodies of culture. So, with that, I have brought to the table an amethyst. I hope y'all can see this. It is an amethyst heart because I believe that Jenn and Toya are two individuals that have helped. How do I say this? I feel like many of us are always, there's a process of birth and death and rebirth and growing and dying off. And I think each of you have been so crucial in my process and have helped me at least throughout my last 2 or 3 births and deaths. And so the heart represents that heart chakra, and the amethyst, some of the spiritual volume that you bring in, the ways that you are grounding and that you are conduits of healing and goodness in my life and the lives of so many others. So I'm going to lay this on our virtual altar to represent Natoya and Jenn, and I can't wait to hear what they brought in just a second. I'm going to first introduce Natoya and then read a small piece that really stands out to me. So again, I invite you to grab some water, sparkling seltzer, darling. Bring whatever you like to the table and get comfortable. And Toya, I would invite you to receive, right? So often we're doing so much labor. So I invite you to receive.
Shame.
So Natoya Hall, Toya for short, is a multi-dimensional healer, channel, and spiritual teacher with over 2 decades of experience this lifetime, walking the path of soul remembrance and energetic mastery. Her work weaves ancestral wisdom, galactic consciousness, and soul alchemy to activate the new human codes of healing. With every session, gathering, or teaching, she invites others into the sacred temple of their own essence, guiding them to reclaim lost soul fragments, dissolve karmic patterns, and awake the dormant codes of the new human. So here is my reading for Toya that I love from her website, motherofstarkeeping.com. When I was a young girl, I used to think something was wrong with me. Story of most of our lives, right? I felt everything, sensed everything. Before I knew this as my gift, I knew it as my curse. I hated it. And I always thought that something was wrong with me. Because of this disconnect with who I was most of my life, I developed a massive fear of death and anxiety that I had hidden for most of my life because I couldn't put a name to what I was feeling and sensing. I learned to suppress the parts of me I didn't see in my reality. I grew up in a culture that never really talked about feelings, emotions, or extrasensory gifts or powers. If you felt sad, you made a cup of tea and you went to bed. I was born in Jamaica and raised mostly by my amazing great-grandparents who are now my ancestors, who guide me on my journey. As a child, I was a tomboy who would run the yard buck naked, yes, and scream my little head off in joy until my mama would catch me and put me in one of the many tailored dresses I had for church every Sunday. Mama didn't play that, and I loved home. By the way, insert adorable picture of Natoya in a dress. Home is where my connection and deep love of trees, land, and wata began. And Jamaica is where I want to lay my soul to rest when my mission is complete. When I left Jamaica and migrated to Canada with my dad and his new wife, I left a piece of me back home. I would later find out that my childhood would be me finding those pieces of love, balance, and home again. Whew. Thank you, Natoya. How do you feel hearing that? Because sometimes it's different when someone reads your own words.
Oh, it's activated my heart so much, so much. There's tears in my eyes. When you look back on the journey and you realize just how far you've come, the sun comes out right away as I say that. See, home. Wow, you can't make it up. Um, just grateful for friends that witness and we've spoken about this many times where we don't give ourselves sometimes the credit of the amount of work we have done. So just thank you for witnessing me. And those words, little Natoya, I love her so much.
Mm.
And I hope I've done her right and good.
And so, Toy, would you mind sharing with everybody what you brought to our virtual altar today?
Absolutely. I brought my beautiful best friend here that I always travel with her. And this is my rose quartz. And I actually put it in my bra. And I carry her everywhere. And I have stories about like going through the airport and they're like, what is that? So I brought her to the ceremony tonight.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mm.
Thank you, Toya.
Thank you.
And I would be remiss if we did not slide on over and introduce Jenn Maramba. And so, Jenn, if you would kindly receive as well. Yeah. So Jenn Maramba, she, they, honors their most recent ancestral lineages from Pangasinan and Panay lands, now known through the colonial name of the Philippines. Jenn is a sacred witness, decolonizing energy healer, integrative somatic trauma therapy practitioner, interdisciplinary artist, and parent. Their work bridges ancestral connection, ceremony, and embodied creativity to support deep healing and remembrance. Through womb ceremonies and ancestral rituals, Jenn guides individuals back to the creation center of the body, a place of listening, release, and reconnection. Rooted in relationships with their ancestors and collaborators, they uplift our original AI, ancestral intelligence, as a path to remembering who we are and reclaiming our capacity for connection, intuition, and power. Living at the intersections of queerness, neurodivergence, and diasporic identity, Jenn moves through the world with a deep commitment to authenticity. Their offerings invite others to unlearn colonial conditioning, honor the rhythms of their own bodies and minds, and return to ways of being that are attuned, spacious, and whole. From this place, Jenn supports the reclamation of ancestral wealth and the reimagining of sacred economies rooted in our sacred duty to live in right relationship with spirit, land, body, and community. Welcome, Jenn Maramba.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jenn, how did it feel to hear that?
Yes, a mouthful, but thank you for sharing all of those words that I feel like we've all co-created together, even with my relation with Toya, having to express that out into words, what I do. It's strange, huh? It's strange to like put into words because we're oftentimes in the realms with the ancestors that words can't really express what that
Mm-hmm.
actually means or what that um, feels like. So it feels like an honoring of the care work that I hold space for, that we all hold space for. So thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to read a little bit, a little more. You're going to receive a little more if that's okay. So I just want to tell y'all that the first time I heard somebody say the original AI, ancestral intelligence, was Jenn Maramba. And so I just want to put that on record. So y'all, I'm sure we could talk more on it and how words and language sort of come up at certain times that I've heard, what do I want to say here? I've heard lots of people say how nothing belongs to us and it is a collective energy. Yes. And I also think it's beautiful to acknowledge, particularly women of color, people of color's labor and their own ancestral medicine and intelligence as it comes through and comes down, and that we also don't engage in colonial behaviors by not honoring and giving credence to the individuals, places, and spaces that we heard and received medicine from. Ashe. And so a little piece from Jenn, the original AI. I love this. Ancestral care work is a bridge between the unseen and our world. Connecting with ancestors and their wisdom is a natural part of our innate ability to be in relationship with spirit. Colonization has taught us to fear this ability and this access to other realms because it expresses our capacity for autonomy. Imagine that. Sovereignty, envisioning thriving futures, and accessing memory that supports life-affirming technologies. True freedom. Ancestral care is not devil work. And to see it as such is to deny our lineages, our connection with God, our connection with the divinity within ourselves, within one another, and the ancient ways of reverence and relating with the earth and nature of beings. Ancestral care work is a pathway, an ancient technology, and what I call the original AI, ancestral intelligence. A little bit more because it's so good. Ancestral intelligence supports us in reprogramming our minds and perhaps weaving our minds back to our spirits and our whole selves into one another. Yet another way colonization has severed our relationship to wholeness is by separating the mind and constantly keeping us in a state of mental slavery, stuck in our wounds and without ceremony to support the liberation of our spirit and blood memory. As a result, no one feasts the ancestors, remembers their names and stories, or offers those who caused harm an opportunity to be witnessed in the ways they have been harmed. Ancestral care work is also deep medicine, not only tending to gnarly wounds, but also being supported by the well of ancestral medicine and gifts that have been passed down through our vessel and being. Where were you when you were writing that? Like what headspace were you in? Were you like by the beach? Were you picking up after your kids? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think well, Natoya knows because we've been talking about that for so long. But writing that, it takes me a long time for things to come out in writing or to come out of the body. And so I would say that that's probably a year. I don't know, Natoya, you're probably my best witness, but maybe a year-long process with witnessing and observing artificial intelligence and my my genuine interest in AI, with someone who has like a very mercurial chart, natal chart. I was very interested in it and that coming through, and so I was likely on my couch writing it, having it come through in that way. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Jenn, what would you like to bring to our ancestral virtual altar?
Yeah, the ancestral technology that I'm bringing forth is this beautiful shell from Panay Island in Antique, actually a beach in Antique where my mother's patrilineage is from. And y'all could probably relate, this shell actually was gifted to me by a woman on the beach when I was taking care of my eldest son. At the time he was less than a year old, or just about over a year old, and she handed it to me, and when I handed it to him, we went to go say thank you to her, but she disappeared. Like I don't understand how. So this was definitely a gift from the ancestors. And we know that these mouths are like the voices of the ancestors, or that we can hold space for that listening with the ancestors. I did learn also that in ancient times they would use this to kind of do acupressure, or even to take out energy from the body. And in some cultures of throughout the Philippines, they'll use this to iron out banana fiber to make it smooth as well. So it is a multi-purpose technology, as we know. And so I bring this forward to honor our mothers and our mothers' mothers and the ancient mothers and the earth mother, the earth guardians.
Ashe, thank you. Can I just say how excited that both of these individuals are here? And so the first thing I think most folks are going to be wondering, right? Because I'm thinking of, let me just say this, I'm thinking of like little Jenn, meaning me, tantruming, running around a tree, probably more times than my breath could handle because I didn't want to be hanging out at the park or whatever my mother or father was making me do. I didn't want to do it. And they frequently would talk about me running around trees and like putting the hood over my head and just like being irritated and like leave me alone. And at that time, I was seeing things a lot. At that time, I was being visited at night outside my window by, I think, this little girl at the tree. And at first I said something, and then I learned to shut up because I was getting in trouble and they were calling me a liar. My parents were like, don't say that. Why are you making that up? You're going to scare your brother. And I was visibly shaken. I was visibly, scared. I was really scared because it wasn't nice things happening. There's a little bit of bullying or torturing happening here. And now looking back, I can see why, based off of what might have been happening in my household. And that's another story for another time. But I think about that little me and how parts of that little me are still very much in me. Yeah, that in some ways calling myself in and out here, some ways it's so much easier for me to stay like in the psychological or the heady than it is to like open all of that up. Although I can say it and talk about it, there is still this fear or this something energy. I don't know if it's quite fear. It's a little stickier than fear. There's this sort of energy that hits this thought of being like harmed and not to be corny, but like this witch hunt. Yeah, right. Like, so I'm gonna shut up because folks want to hear all from you. But like, if y'all don't mind telling us a little bit about like your origins and how it like flowed into the work you did now, and like Toya, we heard a little bit, about you and like how it felt like a curse. And I guess I felt the same way because I wished it away. And then I think it went away, or at least drugs and alcohol in my teen years let it go away, at least. Okay, girl. So yeah, I'm just wondering, like, what was this coming into and coming out for both of y'all? And yeah, what did that look like?
Oh, I could so relate to that, sis. A feeling, the word that comes up when you were speaking is trust. I grew up in a very Christian household. My ancestors were Christian. My parents were Christian, right? So I grew up not quite understanding that because everything was around fear. Everything was around, we don't talk about those things until I was a teenager and kind of got a little bit of freedom and started hearing other people talk about certain things. And I was like, oh, I can resonate with that. Like, yeah, that's what that is. And we've spoken about this. I know Jenn and I have spoken about this, but I don't think we give praise and witness to the fact that many of us who are very open spiritually did not have that foundation of support on an emotional level, on a mental level of what that encompasses to be so tapped in. And some of the most powerful spiritual folks that I know are those folks that never had that support. So one is one to give all of us like a big ashe and hug for surviving, but also doing the work necessary to find home in our work, in our visions, in ourselves, you know. But yeah, I grew up with that, thinking that I was weird. I saw things, I felt things, I knew when people were sick. As a medical intuitive, I never could go out when I was young because I would feel the sickness in other people's body. So I constantly felt like something was wrong with me until I realized that I would pick up on the sickness, and sure enough, the person closest to me had that sickness, and I was like, something is going on here, right? Something, you know. And I spent the next like from 18 years old, I stepped out of Christianity. Um, I moved out, ran away from home, moved out on my own, got my first boyfriend. And his mom, being from the island, she's like, yeah, girl, you know, step into it. It's a gift, of course, you know, and she supported me in ways that I never received. And, you know, unfortunately, but fortunately, I spent the next 7 years alone, you know, listening to my gifts, witnessing my gifts. And I had a dream of my papa, which was my great great grandfather, that came in, and he gave me a mango because as a baby he used to always make me eat the mango. And everybody's like, Lord of mercy, and my feet are the mango, and she can't eat mango, and she's a baby. And I knew it was him because of the mango, right? And I will never forget this. In my dream, he goes, baby girl, I'm going to be your guide, and I'm going to work with you, and I'm going to help you open up to your gifts. And he has never left me. And so Papa Sanki is in the room, and he's one of my guides that just opened me up to all of it. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love hearing that, sis.
Yeah, my papa. We have a lot of some similar stories with that, because I know Jenn, yeah, I know Jenn also
Yeah.
came from that kind of background too.
Yeah, for me, very, very similar to both of you. Um, I really thought it was normal to see spirits like pass through the room, like or like see shadows or lights and feel things intensely. And I was actually a very, very shy child, like any kind of, and this is probably has a lot to do with other things too, but any form of authority or adults or anyone, even other children would speak to me, I would just cry, like just super feelers, super sensitive, just could feel a lot. And yeah, I think it wasn't until maybe I was 10, maybe 11, 12, where I'm like, okay, this is not what people see. And I think I got confirmation of that when I would have friends over and be like, did you see that? And then they'd be like, see what? Or no, what is it? And so that actually made me very, very fearful of the dark, right? Because and I wanted to sleep in my parents' room until I think I slept in their room until 14, and then they're like, okay, get out, like go to your bed now, you're old enough. And I did, but I specifically requested, you need to leave your door open, the hall light needs to be on, my door needs to be open, all the closets, all the drawers shut tight, and my nightlight on my altar, because I had an altar. I was also, my parents were very strict Catholic, but I really enjoyed the lives of saints and like the iconography and all of that and the imagery. So yeah, I had an altar with a red lamp in there. And one night I had a very interesting experience where a spirit showed up in shadow, and I was very, very afraid. And that night I didn't say my prayer. And back then my prayer was, now I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep, four corners to my bed, four angels there spread, two at foot and two at head, and four to carry me when I'm dead. And if I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. And so there I was, praying so hard
Mm.
underneath the covers. And maybe, like, I was saying that prayer really fast, maybe 5 seconds, and maybe into 2 seconds of that, I could feel a kind of lifting of the energy and started to feel a little bit safer. And so I finished the prayer and I look off my blankets and I see these sparks of light at the corners of my bed. And then I fell asleep so hard. And I woke up and I was like, what the fuck was that? Was that real? Right? And I think that that was the first day or first time that I felt like I could, that I really had this embodied knowing of how to call in protection or call in spirit. And to me, those sparks of light were like angels. And that was the first night when I was 14, first night that I became unafraid of the dark, unafraid. And that same night, I opened all my drawers, closed all the lights in the house, and I like slept like a baby. And I would say that that really strengthened me. But to your point, anytime I would see anything or I would experience anything, I would go to my parents and they would ask me to, oh, just pray. So pray it away, Jen. Oh, it's okay, pray it away. Um, and little did I know, like later on, also same time, like when 18, 19, I started to get sick often. And even whenever I would shake somebody's hand, I would get like this 24-hour flu, like this transference energy, right?
Mm.
And I told my mom, and she goes, I know you have it. And I was like, oh, I have what, mom? And she's like, you have it. You have what your Lola has and what we all have. And she started to open up and she never said anything like this before. But because she knew that it was really affecting my health. I said, why did you keep it from me? And she's like, well, we're here now. We have to focus on this life. So the assimilation, the need to assimilate into Canadian life or Western life was really important for her, right? Hence my name Jennifer, giving me an Anglo-Saxon name to fit in. And yeah, me too, throughout my high school years, really working with my Lola, my grandmother, my mom's mom, the one that she was referring to. And she would tell me everything. And I would even tell my mom, like, oh, this is what Lola said in my dream. And she's like, how did you know that? And I would ask my aunts and my uncles, and they'd be very jumpy, like, how did you know that? Don't talk about that. They did just shut me down, right? Just don't talk about that. And so my Lola in the dream time, and she died way before I was born, also supported me. So I feel, yeah, just very similar things. And I agree with you, Natoya, like that yet I really did not have the guidance that I needed. And what, imagine if I did, imagine if we did, what would have that looked like? And but it also makes me feel like, wow, what an initiation to be an apprentice with spirit or to be in mentorship with spirit and the ancestors. Because yeah, maybe it would have been helpful, but maybe also like now that I think about it, I'm like, wow, what a fascinating story to tell, you know? I love telling these stories to like young people because they get so fascinated about that exploration. And then to also in turn be a guide for others. So yeah, I'll pause there.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Thank you both. And there's
Mhm.
so much. I was jotting as you're both talking. I'm like, oh, we could go this way, we could go that way, we could go this way. There's just, it's so full. And although I don't know, I can't speak for both of y'all, but I feel like these are just like the normal conversations for us in some way. Like we're always in it. We're always talking about it. We're always like messaging like, girl, energetically I'm here, physically I'm here. Da, 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 or, da, da, da. There's always the dance and the inclusion of the other world, the SSSS, their ways of knowing. Um, and I want to be so conscious of listeners that are getting emotional listening to y'all, that are saying, oh my gosh, this is what I'm experiencing. The listeners out there that are feeling like, wait, that wasn't an auditory hallucination or a visual hallucination, like this person said, or how do I know, or da 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 da, like having those emotions, because I know that you were modeling. That you were modeling, especially for little black and brown girls out there, whether or not you want to, and femmes and individuals and all beings and bodies, but you're really modeling for folks right now what it looks like, I believe, to take on that like true energetic sovereignty, or that like ancestral in this real time now sovereignty. And what I mean by that is this sense of I am going to be who I am, and I'm going to use these gifts that have once been pathologized, demonized, you know, used to hang people, used to burn with women, right? Like, right. I'm going to fully embody that. And so I just have so many questions, but one of the first things that comes up for me, I'm conscious that folks might be thinking, what do they do? Like, we want to know, like, what does it look like? What do they do? Right. And so I want to weave that question of like, what does that look like? You know, like, what do you do? Like, what does it look like? And again, I know, but I know that not everybody knows. With this concept of, and I think Jenn, you maybe spoke on it in what I read about the original AI, and I think you did too, Toy, of this like, of a people that are generally, not all cultures, not all identities, not all religions, not all walks and spiritual paths, but I feel like many of us are like the great uninitiated. You know, like I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
people
yeah.
that are like disconnected from home. And when I think of when I was writing decolonizing therapy, as y'all know, because you were supporting me as well, but that was a constant feeling. And lately I've been feeling like I miss home. And I don't just mean this motherland or that motherland. Like there's something that I can't even grasp that I'm deeply missing. And so I wonder what your thoughts are, both of y'all, about what you do and how that might relate, or your thoughts related to like a people, like the great uninitiated as a people. Either.
Yeah. Jenn, who are you?
Mm.
That's such a big question.
Isn't it? Well,
Take
I think for me, because maybe because, speaking about my experience as a young child and how, that really led me to be in inquiry, in divine inquiry with myself, and understanding, of course, as a growing up as Catholic and questioning that too. Especially as I learned later on about the indigenous peoples of the Philippines. And, a lot of people don't know, the Philippines is like thousands of islands, right? And, before Philippines was named Philippines, literally that translates to Filipinas, Philip's Island, after King Philip of Spain. But before the thousands of islands were bulked together, many islands were known as islands of gold, because we had a lot of gold, right? Hence, actually, the inspiration of these nails. And they were also known by the Spanish when they first came as Las Islas de los Pintados, which means the island of the painted ones, because they were tatted up, right? And I think I'm sharing this because this questioning for me in my life, this need to root into my physical identity, my earth identity as a Filipino, right? Because that, again, as I mentioned, like my parents needing for me to assimilate here to survive, right? But yet there was something missing. So I guess you can say I've always been asking this question since I was really young, especially seeing spirit coming across my field and nobody else seeing it. Why me? And what do I do with this, And when y'all were talking, I was remembering too, like when I was young, when I started to become brave with spirit, I would like put my palm out and I would say, hold my hand. And then they would hover their energy over my hand, and I could then feel more information or sense more information as to who they were, if they were an ancestor or if they were someone passing by. But most of all, I could feel when they were someone who was an ancestor from my lineage, from my blood and bone lineage, my most recent lineages. Then that made me ask, okay, there's those, but what about even further? Who's there? Who else is there? And I think that this innate questioning in me, again, that mercurial energy of wanting to question, wanting to communicate, wanting information, wanting knowledge, that hunger to get to know my ancestors, I think was also this reflection of wanting to get to know myself and also wanting to understand my parents and the trauma that I experienced with them, why they are the way that they are. I would say that that was a big motivator for my earth
Yeah.
self, and that became a portal for me to deepen in my ancient lineages. Which, when I think about Natoya, and the work that Natoya does, as somebody who reaches into ancient knowledge, like, I pull my inspiration for that with her too. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ashe.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Ashe.
Yes. Toy, you like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how to explain what you do when people ask me. Like, I'm always referring my people to both of you because I trust both of you, but also I feel like you know how to handle the bodies, Toy,
Mm,
also, and correct me if I'm wrong, of course, and you're also constantly working with the homes and beings outside of this 3D realm. I hope that's
right. No,
okay
you're
with.
right. Absolutely. I always say like the work didn't choose me, or I didn't choose the work chose me, right? If I remember when I was just tapping into my gifts, I didn't want to tap into it. I was just like, I think you got the wrong person. I don't think I'm it, right? And then I think you got it wrong. And then I would see certain things or hug people and they automatically felt better, or you know, um, I started developing like these programs when I was at university because I was like, fuck the system, and we need regulated nervous system before it was a thing, right? Because why are we in these institutions and we're paying all this money? And so many of my friends were getting sick. So many of my friends um, were transitioning. It was a very hard time for me to realize like what's going on. Something is going on with the body. And I realized during those years of initiations, what I call it, I realized I had a really deep connection to my body. I was obsessed with it, right? Because I was just like, everything that I've been taught about my body, I don't believe.
Mm.
And so for a very long time, I was navigating these spaces of like, but this world is telling me one thing, but it doesn't feel true in this other world, which is the spirit world that at this time I'm getting really attuned with. And I remember asking my papa, I said, can you bring me the information that I need to balance this? Because at this point in my life, I was going to the hospital every other day because I was feeling things in my body, did not know what was wrong with me. I got to know the doctors, the nurses by name, right? And they're like, Toy, we don't know what to tell you. You're perfectly fine, right? And like, that we don't know what to tell you. And it was one moment where I felt something, and the nurse was like, "You're feeling that now," and I literally heard a voice say, "Do not tell them that. They're going to lock you up." And I quickly just stopped and wrote myself and took myself home. And it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. And I walked home that night. It was about an hour. And I was drenched in tears because I didn't know what to do. And I was so confused. And my papa said, it's time, we're going to start bringing people to you. And at that time, that's when I started to be accustomed to Archangel Michael, right? And I started going into Buddhism and Hinduism, and really all these, my one of my best friends, I say, Ganesh and Kali, came into the room and started. So I've been working with these folks for over 20 years because my papa started bringing them in to work with me in my body, right? And so this was the start of my relationship with, oh, so the physical or 3D body is not what we think it is, right? There's many different facets to the body. And of course, we've been taught a very small, limited amount of information about that to keep us limited on all levels of our consciousness. And as soon as that clicked for me, I said, oh, that's what I'm here to do. And that's when, okay, that's when the Syrians and the Arcturians, right? This is when the galactic team started coming through, and they came through like, oh, okay, she's ready, right? And I remember just thinking, I was like, who the fuck am I? Right? Like, who am I? Why do you want to work with me? Are you sure you got the right person? And that's when they started showing me energetic bodies, how to work with cells, how to morph the organs, how to morph the DNA. And I was, it changed my life. And it's been my life. So when people say, you know, what's the difference? I don't know the difference. My spirituality is my life. I don't turn off my spirituality and then go about my day. I live my life through the lens of seeing it all. And I navigate my 3D life through navigating what is happening energetically. And humanity is just now stepping into that, like, oh, there's more. Right. So I'm grateful to be I'm grateful to be a guide in these times, to be like, no, you're not crazy. No, you've been lied to. No, there's so much more. Yes, you can heal anything you choose to. There's, you know, there's so much behind that. But yeah, it's so much, right, sis? And we've
Yes.
had these conversations, right? Where it's just like, what's real, what's not? And I'm like, it's all real, right? It's all
Yes.
real. We just need to be tapped in very much differently. And I think the world is finally caught up to that.
Mm. Mm-hmm. And,
Yeah.
and many thanks to folks like y'all, right? And your elders and teachers and many others who, I like to say, like, you've been keeping the fire and tending to the fire and just, you know, waiting for folks to continue to come on in and see the sparks and kind of notice themselves. And if you don't mind me asking, Toy, how, in your words, like, how would you, if you were talking to like a 20-year-old, all right, and they're like, if you had to explain like the Galactic Federation, or if you had to explain celestial star families, like, in your words, who or what might they be, and what might that have to do
Yes.
with us?
Absolutely. So we are not just earthlings, right? We're just visitors here on this beautiful land called Earth. When we transition back into the stars in which we are from, right? And so when we transition back into the stars, there's countless and infinite amount of star beings that have been governing our planet for eons, right? It's been the big secret. Most people are finding out now. They're seeing hovers in the sky. Like the awakening is real, right? But a lot of indigenous folks have known this and have spoken to Sirius. Sirius is the master, or is the master star beings of the body. They're the one that deals with really big diseases and surgeries. And our ancestors, who were the shamans, who were the healers, who were the prophetic ones, used to communicate with the star beings and Syrians all the time. That's how the main leader of the tribe knew what medicines, what plants. Like, how do you think they knew what plants to use? What do you think? How do you think they know what to do with the body? There was an intricate and beautiful relationship between the stars, the star beings, and those of us that was incarnated on this planet. um you know and so this is something that we've known from ancient Egypt, and ancient tribes know this and still speak to the star family. So what I would tell a 20 year old, maybe who's just opening to her consciousness, I said, don't run away from who you are, right? You are a star being, you are from the stars. And if you believe in astrology, you believe in cosmic power, right? If if I always get asked that, it's like, well, I believe in astrology, but I don't really know about the star beings. And I'm like, how? How? It's this, it works hand in hand, right?
Mm.
But we are from beings of the light that are come so tapped into to infinite wisdom that we can be tapped into if we so choose as well, right? They're kind, they're gentle, they're loving, and they will never cross their boundaries. You have to give them permission to work with them, and I just completely fell in love with how soft they were, right? Like everything that was told on this planet about star beings was a lie to me, right? And so start to communicate with them. That's what I did, right?
Mm.
I would say, okay, show me something. I'm like, Papa, thank you, hide me, right? Because I was scared. I wanted to know more, but my Papa was the buffer. Archangel Michael was the buffer, and they would show me something in the body of like my clients or something, and I would say, you're about to have a baby, because they showed me a fetus, and she's like, I just found that out 2 days ago. How did you know that? And then I was like, oh, right. you know, oh, that's how you want to work with me, right? And so that's how I started working with them, very softly, very slowly, gaining trust with them. Like, who are you? Who sent you? Right? That, and from working with them, I do not I do not move in any way in my life without my star family.
Beautiful.
I just don't. They are such a beautiful, generous group of beings that really just want to help humanity tap back into their expansion, right?
Mm.
We aren't just this, we are all of it.
Hmm. So,
Yeah.
it's funny because I was going to ask you, like, in
Yeah.
what ways just having this connection, right, with like our
Mm,
celestial family or possibly celestial beings, or
mm.
right, in a way they're ancestors, no? Like in
Yeah,
some, yeah. So I don't want to
absolutely.
make sure it's right in saying that,
Yeah.
or like, how does that help us sort of like feel less disconnected and reground and less alone? But I think you're hitting it.
I
Like
hope
you're
I hope
answering.
I do. It's so much, and
Yes.
I know, and I understand the fear. Do not push away the fear. I get that. I understand that. That was me too, right? Especially because we've been programmed for so long to fear, right? And this is where me and Jenn come in, and we work so beautifully together, because Jenn is for the blood and bones. And then when we work together and she brings in the blood and bones and I bring in the cosmic, it's a powerhouse in the space. Because and then the students are just like, whoa, they're feeling it. They get access to it through the energy of our lenses and how we create safe spaces for them to receive the medicine in which they're showing the class, the room, the ceremony, whatever we're doing. So
Mm.
yeah. Yeah.
I also just want to name too, like with Natoya's work and the star families, why I love one, getting to know Natoya from our intimate relationship, knowing one another so intimately and personally, but also in witnessing how she sees the realms, the ancestors, because it's very different from mine, but we can appreciate that with one another and we can tap into it with one another. But what I appreciate about Natoya, and I think what's maybe sometimes a resistance in community, even with myself, with anything around galactic families, star families, because I connect with them too,
Mhm.
but in the white new age um language of it, I think is where, for me, is where I see that resistance. And this is why I love Natoya's work, because she's constantly trying to express it in such a different way. Um, and I would say from in a lot of ways, a decolonial way also, right? To return back into this innate language with ancient ancestors, with star ancestors, to be able to tap into the frequency of these star families, these galactic families as well, and their energy is it's not like humans. Natoya's,
Yeah.
Natoya and I talk all the time about different types of. I don't know the names in particular of them, and I don't necessarily subscribe to them, but I know what she's talking about, and I was like, oh yeah, that's this is that energy. I know it by energy, by feeling, by sensation, rather than Octurians or Pleiadians, um, and what I feel like I'm tapping into is like, oh, that's my, that is my, like my soul's remembrance, right? And so even if we don't have the language or the words or the labels or that kind of remembrance of that knowledge, or you don't have access to those knowledge keepers that can give you like the history books, like there is that like back to the body, the body and the soul's memory, that yeah, there is this language of connection, and back to trust, right? To trust what that's like. And so for me too, with the ancestors, there's a lot of fear there. People don't want to connect with ancestors because ancestors be out here harming people. And also it's heavy, it's heavy, it's heavy. Our ancestors have gone through some stuff, and I've witnessed that with folks. And so back to your point, sis, Natoya, is like, yeah, creating a safe consensual space that like to remember that we are sovereign, we're soul sovereign also. Not only are we sovereign in our bodies, but we're sovereign in our soul to choose that, like, okay, I give permission to connect with this ancestor. And so most people who come to me doing ancestral work, they're like, well, I'm afraid I'm gonna see this ancestor, an ancestor that harmed them, someone who lived a lifetime of them and did a lot of hurt and damage to their psyche, to their spirit, to their heart. And I say, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. If an ancestor comes through, the opportunity, what I say is it is an opportunity for you to give consent. And also, if you think about it this way, you know, this ancestor is coming through because perhaps they're asking you to be a sacred witness to them in all the ways in which they also have been harmed, right? Hurt people kind of thing, right? And a teacher once told me this, that like liberating our ancestors is probably one of the highest form of spiritual care work that we can do while we're here on this earth plane. And I think we've forgotten that a lot. Uh, we and by all means, right? We have to like edge into comfort with that again. But again, we've lost those ceremonies, just as you beautifully read through that blog post that I had. We've forgotten those ceremonies, and I think that that's what we're trying to reclaim, is this place of storytelling, this place of expression, but this place of accessing that ancestral intelligence, right? And knowing that we don't have to look at just the harm in the last, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 generations. And this is where like Natoya's work too. It's like we can root into our soul's lineage, our soul's ancestry, our star lineage as right? And at mosque, at Mother of Star Keeping, during Natoya's programs, we literally do that. We talk about ancestry that is both blood and bone and star family, and how that's just like a cosmic web that we have access to. Mhm.
Woo! Yes, going.
Powerful. I just wanted to give Jenn her props too, because in our conversations, we always say this when we talk, it's like we're every minute we're just like, we should have recorded that, right?
Oh no, and we never do, and we never do.
We never do, because
Enjoy this thing.
Right? Because even Jenn, sometimes she tells me, you know, when I'm just like, yeah, it's this. Like, for example, light language is speaking in tongues. That's what it is. It's speaking in tongues. I heard my mama do it. I saw my mama have people come over and she would lay of the hands, which is energy healing, and she would talk in tongues and heal somebody, right? And I'm just, so that confusion of like light language, energy healing, right? Oh, that's Santeria. Oh, that's Obia, right? And it's like, so this is the importance of decolonizing that. Like, this is not, nothing here is new. Nothing here is new. We are the ones that have returned, and we've been bestowed with the privilege of opening up this wisdom back again into the world. We're not new. nothing is new. We're bringing back the medicine in a very decolonized way. And I think that's why me and Jenn work so well together, is because we just see each other. We see where the work goes.
I want to just note the first moment that Natoya and I met each other in person, because we met each other in person in Toronto. At the time, I was holding new moon ceremonies. It was open to BIPOC kin. Everybody was welcome. And you could only really come if you were invited by somebody who's been to Circle, right? And I've had to have their name. I had to, in a way, vet them in a little bit. And so here comes this beautiful black goddess entering into a room, and I'm setting up the circle, and it happens at night. And we co-create an altar together. And yeah, I see her, and she decides to sit in the back. And I could just feel this magnetism the whole night. And at the end of the night, she's packing up, and we both were like, I know you. We're going to see each other again. And it was literally like meeting a kin. Like, we haven't seen each other in a very long
Absolutely.
time. We always say that we're like long lost kin, long spiritual wifey. That's what it is. Spiritual wifey.
Literally.
And so and ever since then, we were like, even when people see us working together, especially in person, Natoya and I are just like, we're talking to each other telepathically.
No words.
And then you just see people like this in the circle going, like, watching us like nod and like communicate from a distance, right? And to me, Natoya we may not have blood or bone. We may not share the same blood and bone ancestry, but we definitely share some sort of lineage, our soul lineage, right? So I think we are proof that ancestry goes beyond just the blood, right? There's this energy shows them, and I'm sure we feel the same way for you too, Jenn, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Soul kinship.
Yes, yes, yeah. I just want to take a moment for us to breathe. And I'm like reveling in this. Like, how do I say this? Like, I feel emotional because, and although, again, we've been in these kind of conversations, I love seeing both of you in action and being a part of it, or being on the reciprocal end of it, or, or, being in community with it. But there feels like something so powerful in who you are, in your current bodies, your 3D bodies, in your identities, with your histories, being able to have these kind of conversations and like say this out loud, like say this on the world's microphone. Not that you get the point. Like, right, like being able, there is something, it's almost like I can hear like chains popping. And I know that y'all have done layers of your own clearing, cord cutting, cauterizing, all of that kind of clearing work that we're always constantly learning and growing into and doing and shedding. Yeah. Constant shedding. But I literally heard, it felt like chains being popped. And I thought, this is another iteration and another place and another space where sometimes we need to keep saying these things out loud, and we need to keep reminding these principalities, hypothetically, that may not want, these larger energies and principalities that may not want us to move forward and bring healing and wellness, and for people to have their own sovereignty and understanding of what's happening to their bodies, or not want us to connect with our celestial families or our blood and bone ancestral families. It just feels like, especially in these days when we come together, our little baby covens, I'm going to say, and, and kind of proclaim this, each time it just does something else, at the risk of sounding cheesy. That's just what it feels like to me right now.
I want to say that, especially in witnessing Natoya, and then also our mirroring and reflection of one another, Like we fuck with each other because I know Natoya's story. Natoya knows my story. We've had lots of time to share, you know, where we come from, how we think, how we feel. Mind you, we are hella human also. We are hella human. We have human things that we feel and we do, okay? Like we are, yes, we're spiritual beings because Natoya, both Natoya and I won't exactly speak for you, but because I know you, you know, like
Of
we
course.
really chose life. We really chose to be here. We continuously choose to be in the devotion of life. And what does that mean? It means that we are here for the assignment. We're here for the mission. We're here to listen, right? To be accountable, yeah, to be in negotiation too with ancestors, if that's what it means, and maybe be humbled sometimes too,
Yeah.
right? And
Yes.
so that's why I fuck with Natoya, and I feel she's told me many times, we affirm to each other all the time, like, thank you for walking this path with me, because it's very lonely. And to see somebody, to see a devotee of life and energy and your soul's mission, sis, right? And for you too, Jenn, like you're also a facet and a reflective energy to that too. Is
Absolutely.
it it amps me up. It like it waters my spirit, waters my soul, waters the seeds that I think, whether my soul, my ancestors, the light beings, the divine beings that are at play with who I am and how I'm expressing myself, that is being watered constantly. And I feel like we're all a part of that garden, you know? And
Yes.
I love visualizing that. I love feeling it. I like even heat's rising in my body right now as I'm.
Mhm.
uh, I love y'all so very much. This is beautiful. I'm wondering, receiving all of this, I'm wondering, for the folks that are sitting there, laying there, driving to work, putting diapers on their children, listening to the podcast, right? Like all the places and spaces where people are sneaking in, hopefully little pockets of them time, you know, while doing shit for others, as many of us often do. Um, how do we think that ancestral and celestial ancestral, we're gonna call it, you know, work helps shape our future, helps set us up for like being more well, whatever that looks like?
Beautiful question, sis.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I know from working with our star families for so many years, I know that their main intention is for us to be in wellness, right? We were never not meant to be I can't say the word compartmentalized. Can you say for me, sis?
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
compartmentalized. Yeah.
Right. And that's a very systematic thing, right? But our well cosmic ancestors really want us to know, for all of you listening, that um they're so they're so supportive of you. And this is what I tell my students too: ask for the support, ask for the help, ask for the guidance. You are so loved, you are so guided. Anything that you need help with, you know, before you go to bed at night, call them in, say, you know, say, divine benevolent Octurians of the highest degree of light and healing, I call you in. And as I sleep tonight, or as I lay me down to sleep, because that was also one of my prayers as well, as I lay me down to sleep, please go through my body and scan every part of my body, clearing all that needs to be clearing for the highest and greatest good of all, right?
Mm.
And open yourself to allowing them to scan your body and heal you while you sleep. I've done it for over 20 years. I've told my students to do it, and it's a practice that you slowly start to get into. But just know that without overcomplicating it, yes, there's so much more to our world that we've been told, but also you are so multidimensional. And I know that's a big word right now, but it actually means it's actually an important signifier of you being tapped into multi-dimensional energies, multi-dimensional way of healing, multi-dimensional way of understanding and wisdom that you have access to. Your brain is comprehending 0.0001% of who you truly are. Just take that in for a sec. Just take that in for a sec, right? So these times, these next few years are going to be very powerful. The next 13, 14 years for humanity is going to be powerful. You're seeing what's happening right now, and this brings conversation about home. And I want you to remember that the first home has to be your body, has to be your mind. And I implore you to come home to your body, right? I know a lot of us have escaped our body through warfare, through abuse. I know, I get it. I've been there as well. But especially in the year of the 9 of the snake of the shedding, I implore you just to sit these next few months and really just connect with the body and come home to them, come home to her, you know, and ask questions. Give gratitude if that feels aligned, and be open to also receiving, because for a lot of us folks who are so busy taking care of others, we don't know how to receive. We do not know how to receive. And I'm one of those people too. I'm still learning how to receive. And just know that you have a gigantic team of light, of cosmic ancestors who are just like, all we need is your sovereignty, is your sovereign word of yes, and we're in there. So I would like to convey that.
Thank you.
Ashe.
Thank you. How about you, Jenn, in terms of ancestor work? How do we see this liberating us for the future? Why is it essential? Why might people want to connect with their wise and well or all ancestors?
I think it's just the simple fact that this is the intention and design of colonization and white supremacy and patriarchy, is to disconnect us from that ancestral intelligence. But even if we, for lack of a better term, simplify it even more, our imagination, our sacred imagination, the portals of imagination, right? A portal of imagination, and that, like, how sacred that is, because in that place of imagination is creation. They don't want us to create. They don't want us to imagine or access medicine from ancient times so that it could support us now for the future, right? Or to even access portals into the future ancestors so that we can receive guidance for the now, and not just humans, but also more than humans, plant kin, tree kin, rock kin, elemental, mycelium, all of it, right? Not just human. So when we talk about ancestors, not just your blood and bone, like that's one facet of it. Then there's also our earth kin, right? What I just mentioned, including our plant kin. And then of course the galactic kin, right? And our soul's lineage as well. There's so many facets to that. And yeah, it can feel overwhelming, but at the same time, I think it's like kintsugi pottery, when like pot has been a ceramic pot has been broken. It's carefully created and welded back together with gold, making it even more beautiful than before. And so I see us returning to that, this like reconnection or this interconnectedness with everything, with allness. That's what we've forgotten. And it could feel overwhelming because we have a resistance, or maybe we have an attachment to maybe what this is or what it could be, and that's okay. It's not right, it's not wrong, but how do we edge into being brave enough, or how do we edge into rituals and pathways that feel safe enough to begin to explore what that could mean for our bodies to, one, feel into that safety, and then invite spirit and ancestors to channel through, right? But without proper guidance, I just want to say, without proper guidance, I mean, yeah, it could lead to a lot of different things, which could make us feel hella ungrounded or
Yeah.
feel like we don't belong, or maybe, make us feel like we want to abandon the mission altogether, right? Which is oftentimes a very sacred moment that I have the privilege and honor to hold space for people when they are done, when they're like, I don't know what this is, Jenn, I'm out of here. And I say, okay, I can you stay for as long as you can? Like, let's talk about it, right? And so, literally bringing people back into a place where they could sit back on the earth. Like, hold on, before you go, can you sit back down on the earth? Tell me what you feel.
You've done it for me.
Yeah.
And a privilege it is at that, right? And anyhow, I think all that I want to say is it's intense out here,
Yeah.
but somehow we chose this lifetime. Somehow we chose this lifetime. Our soul, our ancestors, so intelligent that we chose this particular time to break those cycles, to begin to remember ancestors, and that we don't have to clear everything. Fuck that. No, no, no. Do what you can. And at the same time, like, a part of remembering your ancestors is pleasure and joy and being outside. Even if life is really rough or you don't have a lot of spoons, like, go back, go outside, go out in nature, sit on the earth again.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. I hope all of our listeners, I know I am, are just like also receiving all of these ancestral galactic channels as they're speaking. The sky outside for me, like the clouds are gray and white and interesting. And I feel like they're dancing and moving fast, like hella fast, like a storm is coming or releasing or something. Um, and so I could stay here forever. Alas, we're coming down to our last few questions. I want to honor your time, even though time is a totally fucking colonial construct, and we all know that. However, honoring the space and the energy that you're bringing in. But I thought it would be fun. We kind of ask all of our honored guests some general questions. So I thought I would like rapid fire to give you
Okay.
both. So there's two of you, just like, and these are things we've probably already talked about, but just like, what are your thoughts in like little bites around these things? Before I do that, our amazing producer Tribble had an amazing question as we were prepping coming on. So I'm going to ask it. It's a little bit in the scientific realm related to satellites, but I thought it was interesting. And I was like, ooh, I feel like one of them have a vibe on this. There's something here. And I think that there are some other astronomy folks out there that would be interested. So I just wonder if there's a sense, right? How are satellites and non-celestial objects in space maybe affecting us here? I don't know if there's any thoughts on that. Like things that are put out into the world that are not just like our celestial ancestors. Do those kind of things put in space and the atmosphere? Do we have a spiritual sense that infects our bodies here? Does that make sense?
That's a great question, Tribble. First of all, there's nothing new here on this planet. And actually, all the major scientific things that were created were from our star families, just to be clear. And they have weaponized it and turned it into warfare, just to make that perfectly clear. Nothing here is new. It was stolen from the celestial teams and made to do harm for humanity. With that being said, though, we are so perfectly and uniquely created that any harm set towards us, our body and our DNA is set up in a way to counteract anything that they could possibly do to us. We just don't know that yet. And so it's practitioners of the healing arts that are coming back in to be like, stop worrying, because you're feeding them by worrying, and they've fed on you long enough. Open up your DNA, open up your cells, really start to charge your light body. But you could even say, light body, I open up to my fullest expression of my wisdom, and you will start to create a light around you that anything sent towards you is either alchemized, it's either diluted, it's either it's
Dissolve.
disconstructed, it's dissolved, right? So you also remember that, right, that there's nothing that they're doing that is new, and by you putting your fear and your worry, you're actually charging the earth equipment or the earth intention of what they want to do with it. So disarm it by not giving your power to it.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Yeah,
I love, I love, I
great question.
love. That was a great question, right? I was like,
Yes.
yes. Okay. Okay, for my little rapid fire round. And then, so I'll rapid fire, you can just whatever comes up for you, word, image, sentence, whatever. So whatever you want. Then we'd love to hear how folks can find you, what you have popping off, if there's anything they can sign up for, like how they can plug in. Of course, all of that will be in the show notes, folks. There'll be links, there'll be everything you need to connect with Jenn and Natoya. So I just want to say that you don't have to like rush and get a pen unless you want to. And then Toy, no pressure. We could delete this, sis. Like, I was wondering if
I knew it.
towards the end, if you would bless us as an ending with some light language, if that feels in
Absolutely.
alignment.
Absolutely.
Only if that feels
I'd
in
love
alignment.
to. I would love to.
Okay,
Yes.
I was excited. Yeah. So for my rapid fire loving cute questions, do you have a favorite cereal, hot or cold, and what kind? Go.
I don't eat cereal anymore.
That's honest. That's honest. That's okay.
I like anything cinnamon.
Okay. Okay. We're going to get deeper now. Ready? We're going to get deeper. Okay. So, do you have a relationship to your grief? If so, what is it?
I do. I have a relationship to my grief always, every day. I have a morning ritual where I cry. I actually, it's the first thing that I do is inquire where my grief is sitting in my body today and what is it. And sometimes it's connected to people or parts of this world that I don't necessarily have a intimate relationship with. So, for example, children of Raza, oftentimes I think of them and I will ritually cry as a form of prayer. And I let my tears fall. I don't wipe them away. I let them fall. And I imagine any children or beings that are leaving this realm, that they're, dancing to their ancestors and their ancestors are taking them in. So that's my personal relationship to grief. And when it's something very personal, also, it's the same thing too.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. Same. I do have a relationship with my grief as well. And one of the ways I connect to my grief is through silence, through walking. I get to just connect to the allness and being myself and just tune out everything and just be. Silence feeds me. And so that's how I connect to my heart, to my body, and just sit with it and honor it and give it rest too.
So real. Give it rest.
Yeah, give it rest.
Yeah.
It's exhausting to carry it sometimes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love how you think, Toya. Do you have a relationship to your rage? If so, what is that?
My relationship to my rage is actually very closely connected to the grief. Yeah. My sis, Janalyn Umipig, artist, activist from New York, taught us how to do grief releases, which is basically like throwing a tantrum. And so if need be, I will do that. But moving my body is the best way for me to connect to that rage. And my family knows this is, I've asked for not necessarily permission, but an agreement that if I'm angry and I want to express my anger out loud, whether it's like I'm yelling or like it's coming through very strongly, to witness it. And I think that that's been really powerful for my family and also for my sons, to see that mom is angry, but there is a reason, and that they don't have to take it personal. And so I think I'm shifting that and the way that that ritual looks like in my family. Mhm.
Beautiful.
Ashe. For me, too, I love that, because it is through um I'm really working through the good girl, because I realize that's a trauma response to my rage, right? I keep quiet, don't say anything. You want to be pleasing, you want to be a good girl. Fuck that. You're gonna hear my mouth, you're gonna hear what I have to say. And so sometimes I can come off as a bitch, which I hate that people have put on that persona to people who speak up. That's also a systematic thing. Um, yeah, I speak up as much as possible. I'm still working through it. That's the very humanness in me, where, but oh yeah, I can, once you get me started though, I'm going to tell you about yourself.
Yeah. I know that's right.
Right? It's going to come out. It's going to come out in my words. Yeah. So Scorpio and Jamaican. Woo.
Yeah. Combo.
Last two. What are you passing forward for future generations? What is one thing, if you could only choose one thing that you're passing forward for future generations, what would it be?
Oh, that's such a good question. As a person that does not want to have children in this lifetime, and one of my students said this, I said, "Well, I'm not passing on anything. I'm not having children." And as I want to give Ashe to my student, who said, "But Natoya, you're passing on your wisdom to each one of us that you have liberated." And I cried. And so I never saw it like that. But my intention is to pass the work that I'm doing here in this lifetime and liberate others so they can pass it on to themselves. And I guess that's my legacy.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Mine is a little bit similar in the same vein, but it's the embodied knowing that we are sovereign and that you have choice, so that like do whatever you want to do whatever you want to do. And I say that not from the selfish place, but from the interconnected place.
Thank you. One last question. What is something you do that continues to save your life over and over and allows you to keep doing this work? Like, what is something you do that continues to save your life and allows you to keep doing this work?
Great questions. Wow.
I think for me it's ritual. And when I say ritual, it's very simple. Like breathing is a ritual. Like holding intention for that, and knowing that I'm in this, like sometimes it could feel like I'm having a whole day of rituals, right? If I'm really mindful and conscious of it. I find speaking to you all here is like ritual for me, and being able to express myself and to be a witness to all of you and to hold space energetically for the people who are listening too. And so ritual, breath work, sitting in the sun, making an altar, feeding my ancestors, feeding my body, feeding my children, speaking to my sister, Natoya, on the phone,
Sure.
all of it.
I witness you, sis, in that I don't know what I would do without the both of you and our sisterhood as well. I've worked really hard to open up myself to receive sisterhood. I think the sisterhood has saved my life. Be able to talk about things that I never used to be able to talk about. Nature, the trees, just sitting in the tree with the trees and that love. But one thing that I continue to do is trust myself. Trusting myself has saved my life a lot of times. When I don't know anything, I say, "Hey, Toy, you've never failed me before. I trust you. I trust you. Even when I thought you were failing me, And I thought, what the fuck are you doing? You've never failed me. So I trust you.
Yes. Ugh. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you doesn't cut it. So grateful. Love you both. So I'm purposely going to go back up to the head so that we can ground everyone. So we're not losing everyone because I can feel it. Like, woo! You know, it's like floaty. No, I love it. So I'm going to ask you, where folks can find you and what you're doing. And then we will shift some light language. And also, Jenn, I'm just like, yeah, if there's any words or anything you'd like to say or anything, we'll open up to that as well, but no pressure. And then, yeah. So where can individuals find you, Jenn Maramba?
Yeah, y'all can find me on my virtual sacred space, aka my website at jennmaramba.com. I'm also float in and out of IG, Instagram at Jenn Maramba. I currently have a program that's opening up. It's a 3-week ancestral journeying program called Diwa. Diwa is a word in our language that means spirit, means many things. But it's also an acronym that I've used for divine inquiry with ancestors. So it's a 3-week ancestral journeying that leads us into Day of the Dead. In our culture, we call it Araw ng Mga Patay or Undas. And so that's what I have going on. I also have a sacred abundance workshop if you are thinking about ancestral wealth or wanting to call that in, and supporting folks one-on-one with womb ceremonies, ancestral ceremonies. You can book all of that on my website.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Nice. You can find me at motherofstarkeeping.com. One of my offerings right now is a 12-week course through my school called Mother of Star Keeping. I say it's a mystery school where I basically created 12 weeks of some powerful medicines to support beings. Jenn Maramba is a teacher or a professor in the school, and she teaches the ancestral medicine class. And we do big work in this container. We do, father, mother tongue, where we go through your lineage and see what disease, see what contracts are in your lineage. We go through the bones and the marrow. Like it's a container where I can do my mastery, which is sit down with a very small group of people and really go into the body and teach them how to do what I've learned for the past 25 years to do. So mosque is a big container for me. So you can find me there. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. As we mentioned, all of this information will be in the show notes so folks can easily access this. And I want to remind everyone that it is so important to be in community with the work and not just learn about it, although that might be helpful. That might be a start, or that might be a process all the way through, but also an invitation to be with individuals that have been practicing this work, that can show you energetic and spiritual boundaries and how to take care of yourself and protect yourself, like Jenn and Toya, or others, but right now we're going to highlight Jenn and Toya, and to ensure that you're also within community, because part of what colonization does is try to make us all isolated. And there's nothing wrong with a great reading just for ourselves, but there's a whole different work and shadow and intergenerational knots, shall we call it, that shows up when we're also sitting in a group with other individuals. We're really sometimes surprised to find out what can come up for us. So sure. The invitation is to join these baddies in their work, to take a deeper reflection. And so I would like to take us towards our ending. Thank you both. I think it would be so beautiful and special if we end with both of your offerings and just write it out from there. And the only thing I want to say is I'm so glad I reacquainted with you both this lifetime, in this iteration, in this particular body, that I'm so grateful to be able to see splinters, aspects, chunks of myself in both of you, and then have it reflected back. And thank you for guiding me through some of the hardest initiations in my adult life in this human body. I really honor and love and appreciate you both.
Thank you, sister, for the work that you're doing here on this planet. You are so needed. And just, we witness you, we love you, and just thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
Yes, uplifting you.
Ashe.
Where shall we start?
I can close it out with a beautiful light language prayer. Is there anything you'd like to call in, sis?
Yeah, maybe I'll invite you all as you're listening here to prepare the body to receive and to open your channels. So you're welcome to maybe stop the car if you're driving or pause. But if you are in a place where it feels safe enough for you, you can close your eyes or lower your gaze and take a nice full breath into your body, into your womb, that womb space of all bodies, and a clearing breath out with a sound or a sigh. And as you prepare to take in Natoya's light language and prayer, that breath is that first element of light language. So taking a nice big breath in and a clearing breath out with a sound or a sigh. Knowing that your breath, that your tone is also dancing with the light language that's going to come through. Giving thanks to your body, your vessel, your ancestors for being here, feeling them surround you, feeling those ancestors and guides circling around you and also within you.
We continue with the breath and continue breathing, feeling your beautiful body sinking deeper and deeper into your seat. You can place your hand anywhere on your body, on your heart, and give gratitude just in this moment for your divine, beautiful, powerful vessel. I call in on the most divine, benevolent Arcturians and Syrians, the divine, benevolent Anunnakis and Pleiadians, and divine Lyrans of light, of love, of Source Creator to surround all of us listening at this time, watching at this time, for all of our greatest good. And as they come into the room, they place their hands, their energy on a part of your body that needs to be witnessed right now. Whether that be your womb, the tenseness or denseness in your bones. I'm sensing some parasitic activity going on with some of you in the ethers in your stomach. So let's put light here now within the stomach, clearing any parasites, any bugs, bacteria that is not for your highest and greatest good. And just give the light permission once you're listening to this. Sakatula ek utusuku unu ek ikatisicotre in desicotula I could udiscity iku is isuku. Ta isicotulu is he's continue as a cotulu ikita. Some of you might feel a pulling sensation that is absolutely normal. You might be feeling very hot or very cold. Allow yourself to receive by just relaxing your body. Deep breathe. Don't hold your breath. Be still. Even after we close off this session, and be with your teams of light and let them surround you with healing light, re-energizing, healing, witnessing. And so it is. And so it is. And so it is.
Nagpapasalamat kami sa mga diwata, kalilo at Pangininuno. Salamat sa protektahan sa amin.
For my well ancestors of the cosmic stars, to you, Ashe. May you be in love and land in love always.
Thank you, beauties. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
From Root to Bone is a podcast from Decolonizing Therapy. It is hosted by me, Dr. Jenn Mullen. Our producer is Tribble at Ash Tribble Incorporated. Original music by Laura Burke and cover art by Madre Shell. Don't forget to find us on Instagram at Decolonizing Therapy and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Decolonizing Therapy, for the full video version of each episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your people and leave us a 5-star rating wherever you listen to podcasts. That helps people find us. For more info about Decolonizing Therapy, visit our website, www.decolonizingtherapy.com. Be well.